celebrating the birthday all month.
Yep, I'm doing a countdown.
That is
50
cool.
to 50, so 50 days to 50.
Congratulations.
I met this girl when I was 10 years old.
And what I love, she has so much soul.
That song reminded me of us.
I remember the exact day I met Dre and fell in love with the music. What's up, y'all? Look what they doing over there. And as we grew up, music grew with us. Let me guess, newlywed, right? Please, we are just friends.
Please. Why do you have to say it like that? Dre was going his direction. I want to show you something.
Oh my God.
Sydney was going her.
Dre, the man, cook for me.
Did you ask to see him come see?
No. He's running a game with you. His game worked.
That's good coffee.
Let's have sex now.
Let's.
Me and Dre have been through a lot together, so yes, I love him as a friend. Maybe the fact that you're that close bothers me. You've been through everything together.
Never thought about hooking up. You get the best of both worlds. You get the buddy and the boo.
Remember that feeling? It was so real. If we look back, maybe we can find that thing that we both know is missing.
What just happened was the most amazing 5 minutes I've ever had in my life. 7,
9.
okay, 8, whatever.
Don't punk out. I didn't punk out what Sydney did. All I did was respect her wishes. Sound like some punk logic right there.
Are you sure you want to do this tomorrow?
Yeah. I want to marry,
Reese.
Yeah. I want to marry Reese.
I got 2 words for the world. Be prepared. I got 3 words for your girl. Don't be scared. Acts with a real hip hop. Over here.
Tay Diggs, Sanaa Lathan, No Steph, Nicole Ari Parker, Boris Kojo, and Queen Latifah.
Show me.
Never hold her.
Say something. That's happened.
You brown sugar. You just call me in a video. Do this.
Right.
Do this.
Steady rocking like this.
I'm smiling from ear to ear because this is my favorite movie.
It's in my top
everybody knows by now I love Sanaa Lathan, not because they say we look like we could be sisters, but because I just love what she brings to every movie. So everybody, welcome to More Than Just a Movie. I am Kendell Lenice, and that's my boy, Leroy Mckenzie Jr. And every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we talk about classic Black films, the breakdown of the classic Black movies. More Than Just a Movie, that's what we do. So do me a favor and subscribe below and share this with your friends and family. All right, so this is my favorite movie. I mean, I have a lot of top movies, but this is one of them. This is my daughter and I, our favorite movie. Both my daughters like this movie, but my youngest daughter, Amara, shout out to Amara, and we watch it over and over and over again. Sometimes Aaliyah got to be like, okay, y'all had that because y'all watch it too much. So we know all the parts, but all 3 of us love this movie. Brown Sugar. It came out October 11th, 2002. It made $28.32 million US dollars at the box office, starring my girl Sanaa Lathan, Tay Diggs, Queen Latifah, Nicole Ari Parker, Boris Kojo, and Mos Def. Brown Sugar is what we're talking about today. So get your popcorn and everything else so we can talk about this movie only the way that Leroy and I know how. With our own opinions, we get into the movie. So as always, the disclaimer is if you have not seen the movie Brown Sugar, this will be a spoiler alert. Another housekeeping tip is we don't go in the order of the movie. We allow us to talk about our favorite scenes and we just move from there. So again, welcome to More Than Just a Movie. Do you see it? Did you share it to Facebook? You see it? As always,
Yeah, I just pulled it up, so I'm sharing it now.
All right. Am I on the right side or the left side? Because remember I told you it's looking different. Okay, so I'm just looking at something different. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. More than just a movie. Brown Sugar, Leroy, what's good?
When did you fall in love with hip hop?
I say it, and that's what I was going to say. I said I should have said it because we think alike. You know, when did you
we
fall
do.
in love? Right. I had a little part where I was going to say that, but since you opened up the bag, when did you fall in love with hip hop? So this movie is all about two young friends, Sid Shaw, and who's the guy? Who's Tay Diggs play?
He is Dre or Andre.
Right.
Is who he is.
So you have Sydney and Andre who grew up together in New York. They saw Slick Rick and it on the court and heard it. So throughout the 80s, I'm a product of that. You hear hip hop all over the place. Growing up in South Jersey, I'm sure Baltimore, Leroy was the same. You hear hip hop all over the place. But they were in the birthplace of hip hop, New York. I'm not going to go through what borough did first because that's a whole
boogie down, baby.
That's a whole conversation.
Down. The boogie down.
I don't want to be part of.
Now,
but
them folks up there in New York take that seriously.
Right. That's why I said I ain't going to say that. Ain't nobody coming for me talking about no. That's not the part. So we'll just say the birthplace was New York. And they grew up together in New York. I know, right? They were in Brooklyn, and that's when they fell in love with hip hop when they saw Slick Rick. That's what she talks about. So the beautiful thing about this movie, it's based in hip hop, but it's a love story, and a lot of innuendos are hip hop based or music based. A lot of the subtleties are hip hop, but it's love. So you have love and basketball, one movie, and truly this is really like love in hip hop, if you will, but it's called Brown Sugar. So then they grow up and they're still best friends. They don't have anything romantic. And then one day somebody looked at this person like, although it might have been happening all along. And when they asked Dre, which we'll talk about later, when he fell in love with hip hop, Sydney Shaw is synonymous to hip hop for them. And they're speaking love language through hip hop, which I think is so dope. Sydney Shaw, Queen Latifah, plays her cousin. And then you have, later we'll talk about Nicole Ari Parker and Boris Kodjoe. So then throughout the movie, and we'll talk about that, Boris Kodjoe at some point plays Sydney Shaw's boyfriend, her pro boyfriend. Sydney Shaw is a writer for a magazine, later a book. And Tay Diggs, Dre, is Nicole Ari Parker is his girlfriend who he proposes to. So then that's his fiance and that's his wife. So you have these two best friends, a male and a female. We're going to talk about that too. Because
we are.
I know you have a woman best friend. I know you have a woman best friend. So we're going to talk about that. But then they realize in the movie that, at two different times, they realize like maybe she's the one, maybe he's the one. He discovers that a little sooner than her. Well, he admits it sooner than she does. All right, so that's just a little synopsis of the movie. So let's just get right into it. So these two young people fall in love over hip hop. So the question is asked throughout, when did you fall in love with hip hop? How dope is it to you that this is like a hip hop based love story? Because I think that was brilliant. Almost like Common's song, Used to Love Her, that they talk about.
And I think that was the thing that drew most of us who loved the movie, because all of us grew up in that the origination of hip hop. Because when I think of this movie and I think about them doing the interviews with Big Daddy Kane, Slick Rick, who was the
they have Q-Tip, Dana Dane,
Q-Tip,
Jermaine Dupri,
right?
So many of them.
All of these hip hop heads that we grew up listening to, and it took me back to the first time that I remember hearing a hip hop song, which was the Sugar Hill Gang's song. What was that? What's their song? The song that they had. It's like a jungle
Rapper's
sometimes.
Delight. Rapper's
It's
Delight.
like a junk. Yeah, it's like a jungle.
So you
sometimes.
jumped ahead. So that's what I was going to ask
no,
you.
even after that.
When did you fall in love with hip hop? So thank you. You're talking about it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm sorry. It was Rapper's Delight.
Mhm.
That's my first one I remember. But the one that sticks out in my head too is, of course, the I don't know what's the name of that. What is the name of that? I thought that was Rapper's Delight.
That is The Chicken Tastes Like Wood.
Yeah.
Hip hop, the hibbity. That's Rapper's Delight.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's no, but I'm talking about the one that says it's like a jungle sometimes that makes you wonder.
That's not. Oh, but that's older. That's
Okay.
not hip. That's after that. The Message. You're talking about The Message.
The Message was the first one then. The
Yeah.
Message was the first one. Yes, that's the first hip hop song that I remember hearing. Was in set.
That's not the first one. That's not before Rapper's Delight.
It's not okay. Well, whichever one
Rapper's
was first.
Delight. The rapper, and the only reason why, because I remember when I fell in love with hip hop, and when Rapper's Delight came out, I was like in the 5th grade.
Okay.
Fourth grade, 5th grade, and I was singing every lyric to that.
Because that was about 77, between 77, I think, and 79, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I know it was late 70s, early 80s when I remember hearing Rapper's Delight, because I was 10. So I was
like, yep.
I was 10 years old. I was 10 years old.
It came out in 1980, so I was right. I was 9.
Okay, yep.
And
so,
you were, yeah.
Yeah, I was wait a minute. You said
you were a young girl.
I was 11.
Yeah, you were.
I was 11 in 89.
No, I was 11.
I'm sorry.
Wait. No, because
80, I'm sorry, yeah.
You were 10.
I was 20. No. Yeah, I was born in 69. So I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in 69. 80 is
and
11.
I was 9. Yeah, I was 9.
Okay, right. Which, yeah, that's right. So yeah, but that was when I remember hearing like you said, The Message, and it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes you wonder how I keep from going under.
Because The Message came out. The Message came out a little after. They came out in 1982.
Okay, right. But they were around that late 70s, early 80s, because that was, I don't know if they were on the same album or they came out like right after each other, because they weren't that far apart when they were released, as far as I remember. But love Sugar Hill Gang, like you said, that was played everywhere. All of us were playing it everywhere. You had the beatboxes, the big radio
on your shoulder,
on the shoulders, walking around with that needed 20 batteries in it.
Yep.
20.
The big D. The D batteries. The D batteries. What you know? See, these youngins don't understand about the D battery. They don't understand about the boxes on the. They don't understand.
Radio Raheem with his big.
They don't get it. Like people look at that as nostalgia and like, oh, that's back in the day, but we lived that.
Yes.
Like
that was us.
Like our ancestors can talk about other things, or they can talk about walking on Washington, or they can talk about those type of things. Like we lived this. This is our era that we can pass on and talk about.
For sure. That really was. But that was the beginning of hip hop. And just it was more than just, to me, it was more than just the music. It became a part of our culture. It became a part of our expression. It just became who we were as young kids, young teenagers, young adults. We took on that personification of what hip hop meant, because when I mean, like you said, we were going around blasting the music everywhere we went. And it was authentic at the in the beginning.
Yeah.
It really was. It was really authentic. It was just, what you listen to. You could walk down the street. It was a good time. And it was I want to say a safe time, because that was back in the day when you could have your door open, you could have your door open.
Leave the door open.
No, I'm just saying that your door could be open, your mom be in the kitchen cooking or whatever and everything like that. You were outside from sun up to sundown.
Let me tell you something about that. What you just said. Like, I used to pretend that I didn't hear my mom say, Kendell.
Did you?
I used to act like I did not hear her because you had to drag me in the house. I wanted to be outside. Kids are not like that anymore. They do everything inside. But I would have to have my friends be like, Kendell, your mother's calling you. And in my head, I was like, I hear her. I'm trying to ignore her because I want to still be outside. Playing, jumping double dutch, hopscotch, playing Uno, high, go get it. Remember that? And red light, green light, and all of that stuff. Like you wanted to be out there, and hip hop was the soundtrack. I'm thinking about when I was growing up, hip hop was my soundtrack. When I fell in love with hip hop, like I said, I was like 4th, 5th grade, and Rapper's Delight came out, and I was like 9 years old. And I remember my aunt was like, how do you know every word to that rap song? And she could not believe it. And then after Rappers Delight, they did Apache, jump on it. So I was here for it all. I loved hip hop. So I'm one of those people at my age now that says, this ain't really hip hop now because I can't understand the mumble rap. Like I'm one of those people where, generations before us, like, well, hip hop ain't this because jazz was this or soul was this. But I feel like that with hip hop because I loved hip hop and that was the soundtrack of my life. You talking about Run DMC. I can tell you my surprise 8th grade graduation and birthday party because I knew about the surprise that I was inviting people to. But it's funny because people where I grew up still talk about, remember your party? And one guy's like, I remember my mom was so strict I couldn't come. I had to watch your party from the window. So, but I think about that with Run DMC and LL Cool J and like you said, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five to the Sugar Hill Gang, Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew, even Dana Dane was in there. Just a lot of that. So I fell in love with hip hop the minute that I heard hip hop. How about you?
No, that was it. I mean, and like I said, I went in. You go from the origination of the Sugar Hill Gang, the Furious Five, into, like you said, Dana. I think Dana Dane and Slick Rick came out for KRS One, Big Daddy Kane.
I love me some Big
like
Daddy
you said,
Kane.
LL Cool, LJ. Were like that next wave. You had Run DMC in there in that mid-80s, going to the late 80s.
But Dougie Fresh was in the beginning, and the Get Fresh crew. They were coming up there.
Salt and Pepper. I can't forget my girls. Salt and Pepper.
Let me tell you something. With Salt and Pepper,
we mentioned Queen.
Yes, because Queen Latifah came out when I was in high school. Queen Latifah came out when I was in high school.
Who was Queen's? What was Queen's
Moni Love?
Who was
Moni Love?
Moni in the middle.
Where she at?
Moni in the middle.
Where she at?
Moni in the middle.
Where she at?
Moni in the middle.
Where she at? Where she at?
Absolutely. It was just, did y'all see us getting hyped about it? It's because that music takes us to that time where we grew up. And like I said, it was just, you were just growing up. You could, it was just a time, let's say innocence and everything like that. But you're talking middle school, high school, and into college with music that you felt, and that you were, that we kind of felt a part of, because it was our generation's music that we grew up in. Our parents had the 70s music, which we love because we grew up with it. But the hip hop culture, the hip hop music was our music that we took into the 90s and into the 80s and 90s. And now I don't know what this stuff is that they want to call out here.
That mumble rap. Let me tell you something.
Touch none of that. None of the 80s and 90s.
No.
Hip hop. So.
No. Let me tell you something. When old school rap comes on, either on the radio, on television, somebody's being honored, I am up dancing, rapping every word. And my kids have grown up seeing me do that. And they just know when it comes on, I'm like, almost 50 years old, I still know the words, the lyrics to these songs. They never left me.
Yeah.
It's just a feeling that you get that makes you happy to me. Yeah. What about you?
No, absolutely. You just get this, I mean, like you said, it makes you want to dance. It makes you feel good. Like you said, it makes you feel good. And it takes you back to that sound. It was an authentic sound. It was something that especially at that time, that didn't sound like anything else. You could take jazz, you could take the blues, the R&B.
Yeah.
Hip hop had its own sound that eventually moved in some of the sampling and everything, but it just had it had a sound of its own. It didn't sound like anything else. It was a culture because not only was it the music, but you had the gear that went along with it.
Yeah.
Run DMC with the
fat laces and my laces. Because as soon as I hear, "Excuse me, Dougie Fresh, you're on." It's like what? And when I hear boom, 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 talking about sucker MCs, when you hear that first, that whole wheel, that first to sucker MCs, I'm telling you, you hear that. So when the movie Brown Sugar came out, and the first question was, when did you fall in love with hip hop? And then you see my girl Sanaa Lathan, then you see Taye Diggs, then you see that it's set in New York. Then you hear, in the beginning, like you said, all the hip hop pioneers in the beginning talking about when they fell in love with hip hop. And then you have the soundtrack. I'm like, how could I not? This is all me. Like, how could I not love this movie? Yeah. And then that my daughters love it is a bonus, because I feel like they're in my world at this point.
No, absolutely. But that was it. And I love how this movie, it had a correlation between Dre and Sid's relationship to hip hop and what hip hop meant not only to both of them, but how it was a reflection of their the relationship that they had. Because here you had, like you said, you had these two kids that grew up together.
Yeah.
That fell in love with the same kind of music together. And that relationship lasted into their adulthood, and the relationship grew, but at the same time it also expanded because I think they had I don't know if they had lost touch and then they got back in touch, or she had moved. I know she had moved away, but then she was coming back or whatever. But they still somehow got connected or reconnected. They stayed connected or they got reconnected due to their jobs and the things that they were doing and stuff like that. And it just shows you just how some people that are in your life, they're meant to be in your life throughout your life, and the relationship that you develop with them because of the bond that you share. Their bond was hip hop. Bond was hip hop that they loved. They happened to be at the same the same place where was it Dougie Fresh or Dana Dane? I think it was
Dougie Fresh. That was the Get Fresh crew, because they talk about when they fell in love was right there with Slick Rick. Because they had the real Slick Rick.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because they were all performing, and both of them were there at that particular
sneaking to the park, so they can hear hip hop, because it was that hypnotizing and mesmerizing. Don't get me rapping. So I have to say quickly, I didn't plan on sharing this. It just came up when I said hip hop. My cousins and I, we had started a rap group. My name was always Special K. We had started a rap group, right? And I remember when that was like the last line of my part, because my family, every time we got together, they wanted us three to do this rap song that we made up. Like you hear the facts where the black parents would be like, "Come on, show them what you got." And I was like, oh my God, I just remember my last line. I won't say the whole line, but I would go, I can skip, I can pop. Well, I used to go, I can skip, I can hop, I can break out to the serious pop. And I'd be like, And I would be the pop blocker. I would be the pop because we called it popping. And
Right.
I know early 70s, they called it pop locking
Right.
when they were on
Right.
Soul Train, but we called it popping. So then that was my last time I could skip, I could hop, I could break out into the serious pop. And I'd be like, so just imagine me in the living room with all the family and I'm popping. Like that is so crazy. I remember my cousin's lyrics, but you know, hip hop was everything. All right, so were you in a hip hop group? Did you rap? Did you know the lyrics?
No, I was and still am a certified nerd. I was not the dancer. I was more into sports because I played sports when I was in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was into sports, so I wasn't that trying to be the hip hop, but trying to be the next hip hop star,
Yeah.
or rapper entertainer. I was trying to be the next Muggsy Bogues coming out of Baltimore.
See, oh, Buggy Muggsy. See, I wasn't trying to be a hip hop artist, but I used to dance. I love to dance still to this day. I used to dance behind.
Well, yeah, because you roller skate
artists.
too. So I said you roller skate too. So
yes,
I know you like to dance.
Yes, all that 80s stuff. But I was actually dancing. A lot of people don't know this. I just share so much. But I used to dance behind these up and coming artists, and then I also was in a dance group with Special K on my back. So that was my name, my dance name. But all right, so let's just come out with it. They were friends, and they were friends who later got together after years and a whole lot of stuff. You have a woman best friend that you've had for years. So I'm not even going to ask you, can women and men be friends? Because you have one. Right. But I don't even want to ask you, have you thought like one day, could it be something different? Because I don't want to get nobody in trouble. But typically, outside of Leroy Mckenzie Jr., do you think that men and women can be friends? Yeah, or honestly, do you think there's always something in the background?
No, I don't think that there's always something in the background. I think that men and women can be platonic friends, and that be it, because I've seen and I know a couple other guys that have female friends and everything like that, and it's just like this movie. Well, in the beginning, it's a bond that you have. My best friend, she and I went to college together. We went to college together, and here's the funny thing about us: I met her my sophomore year in college. My roommate was her friend at the time. She would come over to see him. And then my junior year, I moved off campus into what was affectionately known as the Baker House, which it was an older couple that lived down in Princess Anne, because that's where my school is. For those of you that know University of Maryland Eastern Shore, it's in Princess Anne, Maryland, and if you blink, you're gonna miss it. Right. It's literally one of those towns that has one stoplight. I like to see that. It has one stoplight. But the Bakers, who the Baker House is named for, they owned several properties down there. It was an older Black couple that owned several properties, and they would rent some of the properties out to the students. And this particular Baker House had 10 rooms, and there were 10 of us that lived in the Baker House. And we shared the common area, and we shared the kitchen, of course. So she lived in the Baker House. When I moved in there, and of course I didn't know, she lived in there, and so and her room was right next to mine, and we became friends because we lived in the same house and everything like that. Became closer friends then. After that, because we recognized each other, and then we just became friends after once I moved into the Baker House and everything, and we've been friends ever since then. And it's just been one, the common bond of school, but we knew a lot of the same people. We knew pretty much a lot of the same people, and there were several of us that were in the Baker House that a couple of my buddies, all of us, the people that I still kind of know from school, she pretty much knows everybody too. She knows those same people too. So we just grew up around the same people, and all of those things, and just have been been friends. It's just been something that she knows stuff that I'm going to that she going to the grave with, that she better go to the grave with, and
Ah,
just like there's stuff that I'm going to the grave with that
yeah,
I know. It's just that bond that
yeah,
we've had. I mean, she's seen the good, bad, and the ugly. I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly. We've gone through a lot of things together,
yeah.
just as being friends, and you can't you can't reciprocate that
Is she
that
married?
no, she's actually been. You could probably say it's a common law marriage by now,
Okay.
because she's been with her. Well, I hate to say boyfriend, but
Yeah.
her significant other. I'll say it like that. Her significant other, because I always get on her about it. Like, y'all been together for over 15 years now.
Are you his friend too now?
Yeah, he and I. Yeah, I've known him since she had her house here. When she had her house here in Baltimore City. Um, when they started, I think they started seeing each other back then. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've
Mm-hmm.
known him. He knows me, and all of those things. So it's always been, hey, I know we know the relationship that I know the relationship that she and I have. He knows the relationship that she and I have, and just like my girlfriend, she knows the relationship that I have too with her. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is my best friend. This is who it is.
Okay.
This is how we've known each other forever. And all of those things. So
So we'll say that Leroy is an exception to a rule, possibly,
yeah,
because a
and a lot
lot
of
of
people
people
say that.
say that the best mates are people who you're friends with first, and
Hmm.
then you transition into a relationship. So a lot of people still lurk in the background, like, I wonder if. Because I've had people, I
Right.
have legitimate male friends that nothing's ever happened. We have
Hmm.
never done anything. We have been strictly friends for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I even
Right.
have one 40 years. But then you also have a friend where you might not have done anything. You might not have been in a relationship, but they still might say little stuff.
Hmm.
Women go through that.
Really?
Like they still
Okay.
might say, if you was my woman, and be and joke it off. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But still,
Hmm.
it might
Hmm.
be in the back of their mind, even though they know that they're not going to cross that line. And
Right.
sometimes people still have stuff in the back of their mind, or you'd be like, "Oh, my friend all of a sudden is starting to look cute." Like when we talk about Sydney and Andre and Queen Latifah, which is plays Sanaa Lathan's cousins. Like, you never thought about it. You can have the buddy and the booty. Like, you never thought about it. And she's like, "Well, yeah, I did think about it." So that she says that right before. So they get together. So Dre is living out on the West Coast for forever, and then they have Russell Simmons and Kimura in it. So they really try to just really infuse hip hop
Right.
in the movie. But Dre comes back to New York, and he comes back with a woman, and that
Hmm.
woman is Nicole Ari Parker. And he tells Sydney, because so she guesses his drink and she guesses hers, her drink, and they know the drink. Let me see if you can do some trivia. The drink. Do you know the drink?
No.
They always
I
talk
ain't gonna
about the
lie. I ain't because it was a couple. I know it was a
Macallan.
couple things in there.
Macallan. I see. I'm not a drinker, but it's like a Macallan, And then they talk about how so they know each other's like drink
Right.
order and stuff, and they say they're just trying to show that how well they know each other.
Each other.
So
Exactly.
then, and of course, Sanaa Lathan, well, Sydney knows that he's just been a player, or he hasn't really been serious about anybody until she sees Nicole Ari Parker, and he's like, "I'm thinking about proposing." And she's like, "What? You known her for like 5 minutes, like you are?" And then before she could turn around, he's like proposing to her.
Right.
And right there, that's the first time they've seen each other in a minute since he moved to the West Coast. So then they fast forward, they get married, and at the wedding, Queen Latifah is asking her cousin, which is Sanaa Lathan's character, Sydney, like, "You gonna let this go down? Like, you're not gonna stop it?" And she's like, "No, like, what am I supposed to do?" So then, of course, you get the cough, and everybody's like looking. So when they say "speak or forever hold your peace," as they do in weddings, you can see in her face that she did not want him to get married to her. You can see, early on in the movie that, she might have been thinking about this because she didn't have a boyfriend at that time. So she might have been thinking about that. So what do you think that was going through her mind when he got married? And would you say, you know what, I'm going to speak now, forever hold my peace, or I'm just going to let these two people get married and see what God do with them?
Well, I think a part of it to me, part of it for her was I don't think she would have liked any she would have like I don't think she would have liked any female um that Dre would have gotten involved with. But at the same time, too, and this is gotten from my friend. She be like, nah, she ain't it, and it's a woman's thing where you all can tell the fake, when
Yeah.
y'all see it, you are,
Yeah.
and you all have no hesitation in letting know. I um remember a friend of mine. This wasn't my best friend. I think, but it was one of my other friends, and I was dating this young lady at the time, and I bought her some flowers and was just trying to do the male thing and everything like that, and I was telling my friend at the time. She was like, Leroy, she's like, nope. She said if she reacted like that, she's not the one. Because she
Mm,
said if somebody's feeling you, this is how a
mm,
woman will react. So they put me down on some
mm,
game that y'all be running as women. So
mm.
so having a female friend, you get that kind of perspective.
Yeah.
When it comes to
Yeah.
come to male and understanding, the dynamics of you all and everything like that. But they a couple times they were just like, nah, they like, nope, nope.
So let's talk about the flip side of that.
Mm-hmm.
You have the new wife
Mm,
knowing that her husband is best friends with a beautiful woman
right,
who they've been friends with. And
right.
she sees and she says that he lets you in places he doesn't let me in.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about when the tables are turned? I can tell you as a woman, if those tables are turned, that's not an easy pill to swallow, even if that woman was there before me,
Right.
right? That's still not an easy pill to swallow, especially when you don't know the person that well. And they're like, oh, yeah, remember you did this? Or, yes, I knew this and I knew that. Even at the the bridal shower, when, the
Right.
game was who knows him the most.
Right.
And she was
Right.
breaking it down.
She
And,
broke it
right.
all down.
And the wife, Corey Parker, the soon to be wife, was just like, and she knew everything. And then, of course, there's
But
always that one person like, oh, Sydney, you know him well. You know all the answers to dig it to make it worse. But
but
that
see,
would make me feel some kind of way, though, even though logically, okay, he's known her longer, right?
but
That's his friend.
no, but I
But
see it.
internally in the heart, that would make you like, dang, I know
No,
as a woman.
I'm gonna throw this at you when it comes to that, because I understand that Sydney might have known him longer, but with Nicole Iris Parker Reese, with her character, here's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you say that he let you in where he won't let me in, here's the question. How are you communicating with him? Are you engaging him in conversations to get to know him? That goes both ways.
But you
Where
can't know what somebody knows in 20 something years in 2 months.
no, you can't. But think about the things that they were asking at that shower. They were asking his favorite color. They were asking his favorite
Mm-hmm.
food.
Mm-hmm.
It was stuff that if you are involved with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and Reese and Dre had been involved. They had been together for
But what if she doesn't ask those questions though?
then that's on her because she
Well,
didn't
because
take the
think
time to
about it.
ask the question.
Somebody might not say what's your favorite color or your favorite food. You know what I mean? That might not come up.
But you don't think that would come up in your first year of being with somebody?
But it wasn't a year. Remember, they wasn't.
How long had
Were
it
they
been?
together? It seemed like it was quick.
I thought it had been. I thought it had been like a year or so.
Maybe it seemed quick. You can't
Yeah.
really tell. you know, what it
Right.
was.
But even still, I mean, within the first 6 months, that all right, okay, and this might be getting into your business a little bit, but let me know if I'm going too far. But with you and Daryl, what were those first conversations about? Wasn't it about how each of you were and getting to know each other about each other?
Yes, but I'm trying to think if I asked I don't know if
Well,
I asked her what's your
you might not
favorite.
necessarily ask
You know what I'm
what's your
saying?
favorite
But
color.
you're just saying you can kind of recognize, oh, you wear this a lot. This must be
Right.
your favorite color. You're
Right.
saying
Or it'll
like
come
that.
out in just in your natural conversation. It'll come out, well, I like this. Because if I'm gonna give you flowers, my thing is, if I'm a male, and fellas pay attention, because I'm gonna give you something right here. If you pay attention, you don't necessarily have to ask because you'll see. Or if you don't know, ask, what's your
Yeah.
favorite flower? You know,
Yeah.
so that if you give her flowers, you ain't trying to give her some lilies and she want
And
roses.
she's allergic.
Right. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing, where you in your conversations, you don't have to, let's say you ask her what's her favorite flower. It ain't like you got to go right out and buy them. But the next time that you're out, you might be out, you think of her. Yeah, she said that she liked this kind of flowers, or you see something, that's what you get. Or you
Right.
might be out shopping and you
Yeah.
happen to see a nice dress, fellas. I'm
Right.
keep you some game right here. You
Right.
see a dress that you think that she would look nice in.
Right.
It's her favorite color. You understand what her
Yeah.
favorite color
Yeah.
is?
But
I
you
did.
got to understand too, as a woman. Now, I would be okay if, like, say, for instance, if my husband had a friend, best friend, who was since childhood and it was a woman. I would be okay with that.
Mhm.
But, logically okay with that. But still, sometimes it makes a woman tinge if there's certain things that they,
No,
kiki. That's just the human nature of the
right.
heart. It doesn't mean that it's going to go further than that. I might not even express that. It just might be something in me that make me be
Well,
like,
no, it's not. But that's not just you, because it's with me and my best friend, and with her, significant other that she has. There's been times where I've been like I'm like, and she's funny because we've had that conversation. I'm like, well, don't try and call me because you want me to, because Earl not around and think that you going and she gonna
right.
that you gonna call me because no, that ain't how that works. Or what she's done, and I had to respect it. She was like, look, I can't do certain things
Yeah.
because I'm doing this or I'm doing that.
Because that puts a wrench in the thing.
Right,
It does. If you're
right,
used to
right.
being, so even like getting
Hmm.
married, and this is Daryl's and I, this is we both had children, previous
Hmm.
marriages, right? Or so if if I was single and I was just here with my daughters, I didn't have to divide my time.
Hmm.
That's the
Hmm.
same way with a friendship. Then you
Right.
have to divide your time, and then my
Right.
daughters have to look like, well, wait a minute, we was doing this every Saturday. Now all of a sudden you
Yep.
interjected a dude, somebody.
Right. Somebody
That's
else.
just the nature of, if you have a previous relationship and then someone new, whoever comes
Right.
into the
Right.
picture, it's like, hold up. But I know when they were boxing, and you had Reese and Sydney boxing, and she was
Uh-huh.
like, he lets me in. And she's like, it's not my fault. But then you also have Reese, which is Nicole Ari Parker, and Sanaa Lathan, Sydney Shaw. But you also have that conversation, which I think is important when you're talking about somebody's life, somebody's gift, somebody's happy place, which was hip hop for Dre. But
Hmm.
you hear, but Sydney, knowing him and knowing how
Yep.
deeply embedded and rooted
That
it is
was.
in him, that he loves
Hmm.
that, everything he breathes is about that,
Right.
right? So
Right.
you have that. And then you have her that says something small like his record business, record label thing. And she's
Hmm.
like, did you just call it a thing? Like, do you
Yep.
understand how you
Right.
offended my friend, which is your husband? Because that's something that makes his soul move. And if she doesn't get that as the
Yep.
wife and connect with that, that's where the problem lies.
Exactly. And you just nailed it. Why Reese and Dre's relationship was not as strong and why he probably let Sid in, because she got him. She got that aspect of him that he lived, breathed, and everything with hip hop, because of that connection that they had from the first time that they met out there. The first time that they met at the Get Fresh crew, when they met watching them, she got that. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like when Reese said that, well, this music hobby of his, she's like, what are you talking about? That's not a hobby. And I know it's not a hobby because I know how far that love and passion
Come
goes
on.
back for him.
Come
And if you
on.
don't, and like you said, if she can't, if and Reese's, I mean, and Sid's thing was, if you can't get that about him, then you don't know him at all. Because if you knew him and took the time to know him, you would know
Yes.
how much he loved hip hop, and
Yeah.
how much he wanted to do what he was doing,
Yeah.
and everything like that. So, and she wasn't supportive.
No.
Wasn't supportive of what he was trying to do.
No.
She wanted him to have the Brooks Brothers suit, to be on Wall Street making six figures.
Yeah,
you know,
she didn't
that
want
type-
him to pursue a dream. And that happens a lot.
Right.
If the dream doesn't fit
Right.
within the box that you constructed for yourself and your spouse,
Yep.
then there's a problem. But listen to this scene. This is Dre and Sydney. When he says to his best friend that, this is the woman for me.
Yeah, for sure. She's brown sugar.
I am a brown sugar.
Yeah.
Can you that with me?
You know, we all looking for wifey material. A woman that's fine, smart, classy, but not a snob. You know, hella sexy, but not a hoe. That's brown sugar. That's my Reese. I mean, don't get confused by her business suit. She is a freak in the bedroom.
A little bit too much information.
Hey, I'm just letting you know. Then on the Converse side of things, you got the girls, the video shoot, their breasts all propped up, boobies hanging out in the breasts. I like it for them. It's a Cindy Lauper, honeys.
They just want to
They
have
just
fun.
like to have fun. Don't get it twisted.
I'll tap that too as well. So that just reminded me of what you said, where if your best friend was the opposite sex, you learn way too much about what's going down. But it's so funny. So when you think about in the scene, it's just so many scenes that I want to play, but I want to just play. This is one of my favorite scenes. All right, so we know Tay Diggs is working, Dre is working for a record company, and they have the Dalmatians. So they have fake hip hop.
Hold on,
Let me play that.
Get it right.
Wait.
Get it right. It ain't just the Dalmatians now, right? Get it right.
So listen.
It's
so
10.
This is where what
it's
you said?
10, the hip hop Dalmatians.
I know. I didn't want to say it because I feel like Dre. I was like, oh, the hip hop, is this hip hop? I'm sensitive about that. But okay, so Dre is working for a record company that's into the fluff hip hop and the gimmicks and all of that. But Dre, because growing up in New York, he likes the gritty, the raw, the authentic hip hop. So he decides to leave his cushy, well-paying job to go out on his own to start his own. But this is where he's running from.
Hey, yo, Red. Yo, what's up, man? Yo, Big C told me he was at the club pushing up on one of my hoes. Yo, man. Yeah, yo, man, that hoe is a hoe. Yeah. Man, you still mess with that? She made me a hoe, but she's my hoe. You know? The hoe is mine.
First of all.
The hoe is mine.
Wait. What you doing? What happened? What's that?
Yo, man, we're just trying to put some flavor on the track, you know? Go on that, baby. Like an ill kind of intro, like the breakdown they got on the Girl Is Mine, ill hip hop, dog. Dalmatian style.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about the hip hop now. So you have this record label executive that just wants to make money off the gimmicks. And Dre is sitting there working it because Dre was joking at first and was like, let's do the whole is mine. And then the record label guy was like, brilliant, Wendell Pierce's character. But he's like, no, I'm just showing you pretty much how whack you are. And then he comes and then they're in the studio. So he's like, you know what? This is what I can't do this. So he's like, so then he has this conversation with his best friend because he has it with his wife. He has the conversation, but you know, it's different. Like you said, Leroy, he wants you to stay, but then he has this conversation with his best friend, and his best friend is like, you know, I'll front you the money because I see your vision. I see your dream. I know how much you love this. So then he goes to tell his wife, and his wife is like, no, wait, we'll see. And then after he's talking to her, trying to tell her, then she's like, I'll give you the money. And he's like, I pretty much got the money. And she said, who'd you get it from? For the most part. And you already know what that conversation is like. But this is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. What's going on?
And 1, 2, come. Yes, y'all. And you don't stop. And 1, 2, come, says the beast of short shot.
Come on, Dre. It's common sense. I used to love that. You said it was one of the tightest cuts of all
Real.
time.
I met this girl when I was 10 years old.
And when I know she had so much soul. She was old school when I was
Sister Shorty.
never knew of my life. She would be there for me.
Yeah, man.
See, that's why I write in the
For real. That song reminded me of us.
does.
Yeah, back in the day. Remember that feeling? Just how hip hop used to make you feel, especially back then. It was so real. It was like, yeah. You remember how you felt the first time you heard The Bridge Is Over?
So that's one of my favorite scenes when they're on the park bench and they just start vibing, and as friends, they vibe as friends when it comes to hip hop, and they're like, Dad, that's when it was just so real and so natural. And he's talking to her about, you know, the hoe is mine and all of that. And he was like, that reminds me of us. And then she's like, her face totally changed. She's like, wait, of us? That's when you know, like, okay, this is more than just her friend. Because, and he's really not thinking about it per se. You know, of course, he thought about it probably before, but he's really not, because he really he wanted to marry Reese. He wanted to marry her. And you know, it seems like it was in the back of her mind, because remember, we didn't talk about this. The night before Reese and Dre got married, after all of these years being friends, they slept together. We can't forget that part. And then when he got up, and after they do their banter is cute back and forth, like, you gave me this, how much, you know, and she woke up like, well, what just happened? You're still getting married tomorrow? And he's like, yeah. So that right there, her feelings are all over the place because she just slept with her best friend for the first time. You know that this is never going to be the same. You know, it's going to be these thoughts. You know what I look like naked. I know what you look like naked. I know what you're working with. You know what I'm working with. And then you go get married. So then it's like, how do you push those feelings down and act like they didn't happen? You know, what would you do in that case?
No, I don't think you act like it didn't happen, but and honestly, to me, the bond between Sid and Dre, that was kind of on the trajectory to where you could see that happen. Because, like I told you, that bond that they had, that hip hop, that connection that they had from 10 years old, you're experiencing life together. That's just like in the movie Love and Basketball. With those two characters, they experienced life together. Teenage years, they experienced your first boyfriend, your first girlfriend, your prom, all of those things together. Yes, all of those things that brought them to that point where it was like, yeah, we got these feelings, and they probably, you know, with the characters, they were probably suppressing those feelings, you know, more so, I think, until it finally started to show itself when Dre was getting ready to get married.
Yeah.
Sid's feelings started to come out a little more, but then
Yeah.
you see Dre's feelings start to come out more when she started seeing Boris Kojo's character.
Yeah.
When she started seeing him, it was
Yeah.
like, oh, what y'all doing? You ain't don't do that, don't do
Yeah.
that, don't do that, don't do
Yeah.
nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that went back and forth on both ways where there were feelings there, but at the same time, they both didn't want to
Yeah.
kind of go there. But
Yeah.
then when they did go there, it does it changes the dynamics of the relationship because
Yeah.
you've experienced each other. Then
Yeah.
now can you kind of reel it back
Yeah.
to being just friends after you've shared your bodies with each other? It can have that can happen, and I'm sure some folks that's happened with or happened to, you
Yeah.
know. But at the same time, where they're able to do it, and that's where being mature, being an adult comes in too,
Yeah.
where and then also too, it just where you have to be real with yourself, and you got to be real with that other person.
Yeah.
Hey, are these feelings something that we want to move forward on, or are these feelings something that, yeah, this is something that it happened once, we're not going to let it
So you
happen
think you
again?
can recover from it and not even get together later? Like you
Yeah,
think that if you did that and they went on to marry someone else and be married 20 years, and of course in the movie it's not the case because they ended up splitting up.
yeah.
And we'll talk about that. But do you think that somebody can go on in a marriage for 20 years knowing that they slept with their friend and knowing that it was a possibility that they still might like their best friend?
I would say yes, and I say that because of the friendship. That wasn't just it wasn't a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
physical thing about them in
Mm-hmm.
the beginning.
Yeah.
That was about, like I said, it all to me, it all goes back to that connection.
So what if one person wants that person, but that person is married, even though they're friends? What if that other person wants that person?
That's something that they have to ask themselves this question: can they handle being just friends with
Yeah.
their friend?
I think it's
They,
hard to recover
and
if you still like the person.
yeah, but you got to
Now, if
be
it was
honest.
just a one time and you can go on about your business and still be friends, that mature level and putting the heart aside. But if you still have a tinge of like
That's where
for them,
you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest about your feelings. Hey, are my feelings more important than the relationship, than the
right,
friendship? Because
right,
I've had, it's just been, my thing for whatever reason.
mm-hmm.
I've had women who were comfortable, and I've had this told to me. Well, I think of you more than friends, and I don't want to ruin the friendship that we had. And
But you
I
might
have
be like, ruin it. Let's ruin it.
and I've had those feelings where I've had to
Yeah.
ask myself the question: do I continue being friends with them, or do I say, you know what? No, I'm not dealing with that. In the beginning, I did. There were some that I stayed friends with, and I was just like, you know what? We'll be friends and everything like that. I said, but then there were some. I was like, look, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally told this one young lady that told me she wanted that she wanted to stay friends. I said, I don't need any more friends.
Oh,
I said if I wanted a friend, I'd go get a dog.
oh,
I seriously said that to her, and I was that upset about it because I was just like, I've gotten frustrated with the point of having, wanting to have these relationships with people,
and they want to just be
with
friends.
women, and they wanted to just be friends. I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
trying to
that's
friend
not what I
zone
want.
you. Right.
Yeah,
You trying to friend zone you when you want
yeah.
something
I'm
deeper.
like,
Right.
no.
Right. I feel you on that.
Yes.
All right. So we talk about Dre saying, okay, this fake hip hop ain't for me. I'm starting my own. Sydney giving the money, and then his wife, Reese, they call her Reese, and then they call her Reese, but he calls her Reese. So that's why we're
Let me ask
saying,
you:
oh,
would you have been, if you were Reese? Would you have been upset too?
yeah, yeah. Because if I'm your wife, then I'm supposed to be that first line, right? I get that that's your friend, but at least have the conversation with your wife. Even if you decide that you're still going to take the money from your friend and that's
But
what you want to do, I would never tell him not to, but at least give me
but you
the
saw,
opportunity to be part of the conversation.
but didn't he say he knew how she was going to react? He
Right.
knew she was going to do exactly what she did. So he
Yeah.
was like, I ain't even going to go there with her.
But then that's the thing. Then you shouldn't have married her. If you know how she's going to respond to certain things and you're not comfortable enough to have real conversations, even if you don't agree, because you can have those conversations even if you don't agree, even if you know you're going to hear something different, you still.
So wait a minute. So we'll change that. We'll take the scenario that you're talking about, right? He goes and has the conversation with Reese. Let's just pretend. He goes and has the conversation with Reese. She reacts to the same. She reacts the exact same way that she acts there. He then goes to Sid,
and she's all for it.
And she gives the money.
She's because she understands the heart of this man, and that's the problem.
Now, in that scenario, do you still get mad with him about taking the money from Sid?
I don't get mad for him taking the money and telling his friend, because that's his friend. That was his friend before me. I'm not gonna get mad at that or taking the money, but I'm gonna be mad that you didn't even give me the opportunity to, even if I'm gonna respond how you think I'm gonna respond, even if I'm gonna say I don't disagree. I think as the wife, because if not, she might as well just be a girlfriend or a chick. Where's the benefit of being that wife to have that conversation? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even if she does, I will go back like, look, she responded how I thought she was going to respond, but I still had to tell her anyway, because it's only right for her to be the first person. That's like if I tell you something and then I got a husband sitting right here, I don't even say nothing to him.
Right.
You know, like when I told you my diagnosis, what if I told you first before I told him?
Yeah, he been a little salty.
You get what I'm saying? So it's just about like that. About just having the common courtesy. At least your spouse deserves that much.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to ever say you can't be this person's friend and this person is here. I don't know what
you. Well, there's folks out there that do that, right?
I know. It happened to me before. Where someone told me, and not in this situation, but someone told me or didn't like it, and I had to get rid of a friend, and he's still my friend now on social media and stuff. But our friendship definitely changed because I wanted to invite him to and everything. Told him about it, but he told me it was inappropriate to have him as my friend, and our friendship suffered. My friend was like, but I'm me. Like, what you mean? Like, it's us. I'm me. And he was really upset. And it did change the dynamics. It's still love. And we still, talk on social media and text, when if we see something funny every now and then. But it did change. So I had that happen to me before.
Yeah,
for sure. And then you have to ask, is it the insecurity of the person, or they're not sure, or they're thinking like a man, or wondering if, you never know. But this man had proved to be my friend. And I don't want to say who it is, because if I give scenarios, they'll know who I'm talking about.
Right.
But it proved that this person was my friend when it proved that this was a good friend, and but yeah, people do that. And it's unfortunate. That's why I think all the friends should meet. I think
they should at least meet or know of each other.
Right, and know of each other. I think it's nothing wrong with, hey, if a woman friend, hey, did you ever sleep with her? Did you ever sleep with him? Like, I think those are appropriate questions, because that might change the game, and they might be like Sydney Shaw, like still pining like one day. I had a friend like was sitting in the cut. I thought it was like my brother, my friend. And then when it was time for him to take a shot, he took it.
And that happens too, where you do, they may be, and I've done that too, where it's been, you're friends with somebody with, like I told you stay friends with somebody, and then when you feel like it was an opportunity there or whatever, because you did have feelings for them, you make it known. Like, well,
folks want to take the shot.
Yeah, because you can.
And I think that's
about
what
that. I have one of my friends to this day. I've always wondered, okay, well, you done been involved with all these other dudes, and you ain't never even said nothing remotely my way. You know what I'm saying? So it does cross. What's the I think it's by Michelle and Cello. Do I ever cross your Brian McKnight? Do I ever cross your mind? Do I ever cross? When you think about, I love that song. That's one of my favorite CDs too. Anytime CDs, but But you do. You think about that. You think about the relationships and those friendships that you have or that you develop
Yeah.
with the opposite sex. And you do. Honestly, you do have to be careful.
Yeah.
You know, you do have to be careful because even in the movie, when when they were celebrating, um, it was Dre starting his
Yeah.
own label, and they're at whose ever house it is, and Boris Kojo's character asks Sid, he says, "How do you deal with it?" And she's like, "Well, how do you deal with what?" And he said, "Them being so." I mean, not Sid. Uh, uh,
Reese.
yeah, Reese. He asked
Reese
Reese's character,
and Kelby.
yeah, how do you deal with it? And she was like, well, how do I deal with what? She said, them being that close, being so close, and everything like that. And she just kind of shrugged it off or whatever, and everything like that. But
In
yeah,
that same scene, my favorite line in the movie, "You are a perfect verse over a tight beat." That right there, that line, they can get it with that line. It's like, what? What? You are a perfect verse over a tight beat. Come on. But he was talking about he was talking about his friend, but he was happy because, like you said, that was the launch of it. And then you have Reese and Calby looking like that was almost sexual.
Well,
that was almost
well, to them they took it as sexual,
because
but with Dre and with Sid,
but even Sid kind of looked like.
but see, here's my thing, and I get Dre's saying that because that's how the same way he felt about hip hop is the same way he felt about Sid. That was how deep it didn't necessarily for him. Now I don't know for her. And
but even Sid, she still was feeling warm and fuzzy inside. Everybody at the party was like,
because that's how they took it. But Dre was just like, no, this. I keep saying it.
He wasn't trying to be disrespectful. Right. He was really speaking his feelings.
He was going back to those 10-year-old kids that met watching the Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew watching hip hop. Yeah. That's where all of that came from. She had been there through all of those experiences.
Yeah.
So her experiencing this with him, starting his own label, her giving him the money, putting up the money as an investor.
She was a part of it.
She was a part of all of that. So to me, that's what him saying that very thing. You are a perfect beat over a verse. That's what all of that encapsulates to me.
Yeah,
that's how
it definitely does, because his wife was there, her boyfriend was there, people were there. He wasn't trying to be disrespectful. He wasn't trying to shoot a shot. Like he was sincerely, because hip hop was their love language.
Yep.
So that was the thing that connected them. Yeah. So hip hop being the love language, it was only right to have a dope verse. And you are the perfect verse over a tight beat. Like, come on. You know, that was, everything. So let's talk, because I didn't talk about this as I do in the beginning. The soundtrack had Mos Def. It had Mos Def. It had Angie Stone, Jill Scott, Black Star, Mary J. Blige, my boy Rasan Patterson, The Roots, Eric B. and Rakim, and the famous song of this movie, "Love of My Life," with Erykah Badu and Common. Love of My Life. That was the jam.
Yeah,
and also Mos Def and Faith had a song on that soundtrack.
Yeah, Kiki Wyatt was on there too. Kiki Wyatt, I had her, and then and I don't know how many folks know about this lady, Cassandra Wilson.
Yeah, Cassandra Wilson and everything. There was so many people. Yeah. Well, how much time we have? Okay, we got a little bit of time, so I want to talk about two things. Yes, the soundtrack was all that. So
Can I add something to that after you finish the soundtrack? No, after you finish the soundtrack.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say this time we got the soundtrack, but this time I'm going to add the producers, the executive producers, because
go ahead. Yes.
The director was Rick Famuyiwa.
And the screenwriter as well.
Yeah, and it was written by Michael Elliott, but it was
Michael Elliott created Hammer and Nails.
Really?
Hammer and Nails is created by that same Michael Elliott. That was his franchise, and we talked about that before.
Really?
Yes, Michael Elliott.
Yeah, You just schooled me on something.
Yep.
Wow,
Yep.
that's dope. That is dope. But the executive producer for this movie was my man Magic Johnson.
Yes.
I'm gonna call him Irvin because his mama called him Irvin. So, but yeah, but he was the executive producer.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for adding that.
Yeah,
thank you for
yeah,
sure.
I wanted to
And
add
Michael
that.
Elliott and his wife, well, ex-wife now, were on our favorite show, Black Love.
Black Love, really? Oh,
They were
okay.
on Black Love, and then soon after that, they got a divorce and they came out together, him and Mecca. But everybody thought so because that union was, so if you go back and look at old clips of them on Black Love, but that didn't. And then when
what season were they on with Black Love?
like 2 seasons ago.
Really?
They were on
Okay,
2 seasons ago, him and his ex-wife Mecca, who they were talking about their relationship. And even when they were on, people were like, don't know. So a couple of months after that aired, because you know they film it long before it airs.
Exactly.
So then after it aired, they kind of announced a divorce. And then as they announced the divorce, then he was dating Garcelle Bouvet,
Really?
you know, fancy. And I was like, huh? But then that didn't work out. But then I was kind of like, wait a minute, can the ink dry yet?
Yeah,
but
you know how that is.
Yeah, but he's an amazing, Michael Elliott is an amazing writer, and he started in Hammer and Nails is the relaxation and the nail place for men.
Ladies, right. I'm gonna give y'all some game now too. Father's Day is coming up in June. And I don't and I'm hoping, and I haven't been up to because there's a Hammer and Nails.
They closed the one at Owensville.
I was hoping it hadn't, but I was going to say, ladies, if it's a Hammer and Nails near you and your husband, do yourself a favor and get that.
Yeah, get their feet done. Let them have relaxation time.
They will thank us later.
Yeah,
they'll thank us later.
If your man, I'm gonna do a PSA. If your man is cutting up the sheets with his toenails, make sure you give him a Hammer and Nails certificate.
For sure.
Or scraping up the side of your ankle.
you wake up and the sheets got slices in them.
You thinking Freddy Krueger was in the bed with you?
For real. Yeah,
but I mean, we're wrapping up.
Hammer and Nails.
It's so funny. Oh my goodness. But brown sugar, I could do 2 hours of brown sugar. We're going to wrap up in just about 5 minutes. Yeah. But I just want to say so quickly, I just want to talk about when Dre says that he doesn't want that type of hip hop. He wants Cabby.
Right.
And Cabby is Mos Def.
Mm-hmm.
Because, listen.
Yeah. What's the sun owe you some money? We hang out a window and no shit. You know what? This whole confession thing, we don't really got to do. You can just keep driving.
So he knows that Cabby, which is Mos Def, is a true hip hop artist. And he tells him when he picks him up that, hey, you know, I quit Millennium Records. And he's like, what? He's like, because I want a real hip hop artist. So then he goes to pursue Cabby, and Cabby's like, well, I don't think you gully enough. You gully enough? Can you do this? Because I know you into the hip hop Dalmatians dudes, and I'm a raw dude. He's like, that's what I want. I want to bring the feel of hip hop back. So that's his first artist he signed, Cabby. But I just want to talk quickly about Queen Latifah, who plays Francine, and Cabby by Mos Def. They have a love thing going on. I've seen that big statuesque, beautiful woman, Queen Latifah Francine. He was like, I want that. And that was so cute. Their banter back and forth, how they were talking about the champagne flutes. And she's like, finally, like, you want to go out with me? And he's like, oh, yes, I'm a goer. I'm a goer.
I'm a goer. I can go.
He's like, I can go. And then talking about, and then she's telling, Sid, like, yeah, he's talking all of that, So I thought that was cute to have them as like the little sub love couple in dating. Even like she asked him out because he couldn't even really find the words to do it. But I want to talk about the persistence as we wind down. The persistence of Dre. He started his own record label. He was trying to get his record played. He went to Hot 97 and he went every day. And he told her, I'm coming up here every day until you play this song. I'm coming up here every day until you play this song. And finally, that day came. And he's like, I don't want to be friends no more. He was like, it's circle yes or no. He's like, I want you to be my woman, because when he asked, when did you fall in love with hip hop? After Sid Shaw has her book out, and she goes to the mic and she's thinking about him, and he's in Cabby's car, like, did you hear? Did you hear? You know? So I think that was cute. But I want to go back, and then we're gonna come right back. But he and his wife divorced. They had and she was dating Kelby. Kelby was Boris Kojo. Sid was dating him, and he wanted her to do an interview, just her, in her magazine, where she talked about hip hop and ballers and all of that. And he pursued her, Boris Kojo, and all the women would say, okay, he's fine. Why she want Tay Diggs if, she had him? And he pursued her. He wanted her. He took her out to eat. He filled her place up with flowers, all the romance. He was coming, she was coming to the game. She was sitting there writing at the game. But where he messed up was he wasn't into what she was doing as a writer. She was asking him to read some of the stuff. He wasn't reading some of the stuff. And that's important. On the flip side, when we talked about Nicole Ari Parker and Tay Diggs, Reese and Dre, she wasn't involved in his love for hip hop. And now you have Kelby, which is Boris, and Sid together, and he's not really into her writing and what fills her, that that hip hop, that writing about that, as she's writing her book, because she was a journalist for articles and now she's writing a book. So that was a disconnect for him, even though he was fine. He was a pro athlete, he was whining and dining her, he was romancing her, but still that wasn't enough. All right, so we got a couple minutes, so talk about that quickly.
I'm gonna give you the connection. Just like, remember, that connection that you just talked about between Sid and Boris Kojo's character, and how he asked her about the article that she wrote. She asked him, did he read it? He says, well,
he tried to lie.
You're right. I kind of read it, but I didn't read it. That showed her that he wasn't really into, like you said, just like when Sid and Reese were at the boxing ring, and they were talking about Dre's passion for hip hop and him seeing a person. But here's what Dre did. Remember the scene when they were at her apartment, and he tells her about an article that he read of hers. And it was from an article from a ways back. He was like, I've read everything that you've written.
And he can recite it.
He could recite it. That's understanding that person. And that's the connection that Reese didn't have, and that's the connection that Boris Kojo's
and they had it for each other.
Right, that they didn't have for the people that they were trying to get involved with. So it didn't matter how many roses and flowers that Boris Kojo tried to send her and everything like that. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't because of that connection that she felt with Dre. Because even they were like, Boris Kojo's character says to Sid, you don't look at me the way that you look at him.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Because she did, because of that connection that they had. And how they did feel about each other.
Yeah.
And you could see that chemistry.
Yeah.
And she wasn't looking at him like that because he didn't make her feel like Dre did. And the connection that they had. And I keep going back. This whole movie goes back to the beginning of those two 10-year-old kids meeting each other and experiencing life together.
Absolutely. And my kids will kill me if I didn't talk about our favorite scene. So we talked about both of them splitting up. Sid splitting up with Kelby because he was like, well, what is it? She could not even make herself love him because of the love that she had for Dre. And Kelby saw it. So, you know, and so did Reese when it came to Dre. So they both, their significant others, really saw it and was like, okay, this is not it. Right. So then we talked about the at the end when he was like, I don't want to be your friend no more. But one of our favorite, funniest scenes is this one. Listen, me and my kids.
Trey, think about this, okay? Let's just go. Trey, you know how to do this.
What's up, surprise? Reese, what you doing? Hey. Guys, what's up? How you doing? It's funny running into you here singing love songs to yourself.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty. Don't stop on my child. Yeah. Me and Sid, we was just in the neighborhood. We thought, you mind if we join you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Let's see. Sit down, bring why you want to stiff. Reese, Will. See, you got on my favorite dress with this area. Like, hey, all out. Greased up from a man. I'm sorry, Trey Ellis. Richard Lawson. Richard
Lawson.
Right,
you said you sound educated.
You guys, friends of Reese's? Yeah, well, actually, the funny thing is, she's my wife. What? Hey, I'm sorry. That's cool. That's cool. How could you know? She ain't wearing the $15,000 ring that I bought her as. I should say, still paying off, but
Actually,
you understand. Could you not put my butt? Listen, my man. I'm trying to order.
Let's see what they celebrate.
Bottle of champagne, because we've been to celebrate.
Dre.
We gonna celebrate what? My divorce. How about that? And some pork chops.
Dre.
I'm kind of hungry.
Listen, that's the scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear well, but that's the scene where Tay knows his relationship is over. She's cheating with the trainer who Sid saw him with and was uncomfortable about their kind of interaction. But when we say celebrate my divorce, when he goes in, he's like, you're sitting there. He's like, I didn't know she was married. He said, how could you with all this hanging out?
I just, the only thing I could think about with that scene, everything I think about is Orange Juice Jones' song, Close Your Mouth, because you cold busted.
So then you have, that's a true best friend moment too, where you drag your best friend along. They don't know where they're going. And then they're too in it to get out of it when he goes to approach his wife, who he knows is cheating on him. So all of that worked out when we say Richard Lawson. Oh, but that's a funny scene. We always crack up when he says, celebrate my divorce. And he then tries to order a pork chop to let the other man pay for it. And Sid the whole time is humiliated. But that's what
friends do, though. That's what best friends do. Because I lie to you not. I'm telling you that, and I tell people, when you know you have a best friend, and this is how close me and my best friend are, and you ask yourself, it's 2:00 in the morning, you're stranded out on the road, and you can only call one or two people, and they will get out of bed for you and come get you.
Yeah.
That's a best friend. And I can tell you that because I know my best friend has done that for me. I was stranded. She didn't even hesitate. I'm on my way. Come get you. Come get you.
And there you have it. So, we went over a little bit for this because I said I can talk about brown sugar all day. And so
I should have ordered those pork chops too.
That's right. And that's why I do this show with this one right here. Only he understands. Only he can talk 90 minutes about that. So, but I thank you so much. And this, like I said, y'all, this is my favorite movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check out Brown Sugar wherever you can see it. Leroy, you want to say last words as we end this?
The only thing I'll say is, when did you fall in love with hip hop? That's how
when did you fall in love with hip hop? So if you're watching this and you love hip hop, write in the comments after you subscribe, write when you fell in love with hip hop. Write it right
Your
down
favorite hip
there.
hop song. Your favorite
Absolutely.
hip-hop
And
song.
put your favorite hip hop song. This is more than just a movie. I'm Kendell Lenice. That is Leroy Mckenzie Jr. We are here every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Make sure you have an amazing day. When did you fall in love with hip hop?